Hello everyone, Storm on One here. Today we'll be having a quick update on the tropics here. We got Major Hurricane Sam, which continues to move just to the northeast of Lesser Antilles. It should make a more northern turn over the next couple days. Eventually, start to turn towards the northern part of the Atlantic. We also got Tropical Depression 20 in the main development region, and also MS 91L, and then you got the remains of Peter up there as well. So we're going to check out the infrared satellite imagery, and the biggest thing right now, it's Major Hurricane Sam. Been talking about that for several days, and likely be talk about that for several more days. It's going to be around for a while. So Sam looks better today than yesterday. Has strengthened back up to a low-end Category 4 hurricane, which I think it will slowly intensify throughout the day today. And eventually tomorrow it will start to run into some wind shear, and then it should start to do that dying trend. It will get close to Bermuda, but there is some better news for Bermuda on this update. We got the remains of Peter, which eventually that should go away very soon. We got Tropical Depression 20. That's another big thing in this update. That's going to continue to move a little bit more to the north here. Eventually, what's going to be very interesting that Hurricane Sam is going to turn something like this. Well, Tropical Depression 20, which also may become a hurricane, may go a little further up to the north, and they may try to interact, do something in the northern Atlantic. So that should be interesting to watch. Meanwhile, we do have a little bit better news for MS 91L. The chances have decreased for development for MS 91L. But keep in mind, any of these have no threat to the United States whatsoever. So most of these are going to be staying as fish storms, which that means it's not going to interact with any land or anything like that. But here's a look onto the National Hurricane Center's outlook. Here's the remains of Peter. Got 10% chance of development. Not expecting anything from that. And then you got Major Hurricane Sam with winds of 130 miles per hour with a central pressure of 949 millibars, which just had recon out there earlier this morning. And does show a slowly intensifying major hurricane out there, which we'll actually take a look at that in a little bit. Then you got Tropical Depression 20 with winds of 35 miles per hour that may get upgraded to a tropical storm later today if it gets a little bit better organized. And then the chances have dramatically decreased for MS91L, and it says in here, development of the system appears less likely due to the interaction with a larger low pressure area located to its east, which will create some wind shear out there. However, it's expected to drift west and northwestward over the next several days. Remember in the last video, I had 80% chance of development down to 30. So that's a big change right there. But then again, any of these here, no threat to land as of right now. But we'll click on Hurricane Sam first, and we'll check out the cone of uncertainty. And you do see here, it's going to miss Bermuda to the east, which is some good news there. But also keep in mind that the wind field with hurricane force winds is pretty small. If you check out the wind history with Sam, you can tell here, even though it was a high-end Category 4, the wind field itself was still very small. So it's going to stay at least far east enough, it'll stay away from those tropical storm winds and also hurricane force winds as well. It ain't like it's hundreds of miles wide. It's actually more like maybe at least a tropical storm wind field, maybe about somewhere around 100 miles wide. That's approximate though. And hurricane force winds is much smaller than that of how wide it is. But if you check out wind speed probabilities, this kind of tells the story here. Bermuda currently has a 20 to 30% chance of seeing tropical storm winds, which is pretty low. If you check out hurricane force wind probabilities, it's 0. They're not going to expect to see any hurricane force winds out of this. So that's some good news there for Bermuda out there. And you do see here, it will come by Bermuda to the east, at least a low-end Category 3 hurricane, and eventually it'll die down to just a hurricane Category 2 by 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and eventually should move out to the northeast at that point. Then again, no threat to the United States. However, this storm here may create some dangerous swells across parts of the east coast of Florida, and maybe around the Gulf of Maine as well. So if you guys are going to be swimming out there, please be careful out there. as well as the storm here. Despite being hundreds of miles offshore, uh, it could still bring some dangerous swells out there and also stronger rip currents as well. So definitely need to be careful with that. But here's the latest recon data, at least earlier this morning. There's another recon plane currently about to go into the center of the storm right now. Um, but you do see here, it's been slowly intensifying. You can see the latest pressure was 951 millibars. It's been dropping a millibar or two, really about, in, I will say about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's slowly deepening. So it's slowly intensifying here. We'll see how far the other recon planes out there, if it will load for me, which I don't think it will. Well, anyways, while that loads here, let's check out Tropical Depression 20 out here. And here's the current track. We're actually expecting this to become a hurricane. Actually forecasted by the National Hurricane Center. You do see here a northern turn and no threat to land whatsoever. So that's some good news there as well. And here's the wind speed probabilities for the islands out here. Would not expect any impacts from Tropical Depression 20 whatsoever. Which doesn't look like it's going to load, so that's pretty unfortunate. But here's well, let's actually check out Sam first. So here's Sam, looking better than yesterday again, and it looks like the models are not wanting to low in. That's not good. Oh, there we go. Slow internet. But let's check out here what the tracks here. I've already seen this earlier, but I'll try to tell you guys that really when it passes Bermuda to the east, it does get pretty spread out. But as it passes Bermuda to the east, it's actually pretty far to the east, and there's a really strong agreement there as well. And what it will show is that it will show, a very strong agreement. It's not really wide at all, pretty far off to the east. So that's some good news there. And here's the intensity guidance here. Not really expected to strengthen all that much. However, it may strengthen maybe by 5-10 miles an hour today as well. And as you can see here, as a closer view, really after 36 hours, it should start to die down as it starts to run into some of that wind shear out there as well. If we check out Untitled, which is now Tropical Depression 20, and I don't think it's going to load on here either, but it will show a pretty strong agreement moving up to the north, just like the National Hurricane Center's forecast. And by the intensity here, the majority of them, here it is loaded. But here's the intensity guidance. Most of them bring it up to a tropical storm, but even some of them bring it up to a hurricane as well, which I think a hurricane seems pretty doable with Tropical Depression 20. And then when we check out MS 91L, not really that impressed with the models. If you check out the tracks, we got like nothing out there. Just only one that continues to move off to the west. If you look at the intensity guidance, it's kind of over the place. The majority of them keep it in a tropical pressure. But then again, most of these do not make this storm develop to anything at all. So these are just the models. If it were to get really better organized and develop, it could become a tropical storm. But if it does not get organized, well, it's just a disorganized system. It won't develop too much of anything. So, but we'll still watch MS91L over the next several days. Let's check out the Gfs model here with precipitable water. You'll start to see Tropical Depression 20 eventually become a hurricane by maybe as early as maybe Thursday or as late as Friday. It gets as low as 982 millibars, but eventually it's going to run into some wind shear off to the north. You do have the Bermuda High that kind of moves a little off to the west here, but eventually it's going to back off to the east as well. You got a trough that moves in across parts of the eastern United States, so that's going to keep Sam away from Bermuda in the United States. It's also got a lot of dry air as well, so I think Sam will start to dry out a little bit when it gets by Bermuda as well. But here's the interesting part. You do see here, Invest Nadiel or Tropical Depression 20 gets pretty close to Sam. So this could be a very interesting scenario of what's going to happen up here. And it seems like what will happen here, it may try to re-strengthen and probably get out ahead of Sam. So that's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens there. But really, when Sam gets just to the north of Lesser Antilles, that's when the environment becomes less favorable for development or for tropical systems. You can see here by Thursday, it starts to run into some of that wind shear, so eventually it starts to die down. Meanwhile, for tropical depression 20, you can see a lot of that wind shear just to the north. Both of these systems will run into some wind shear, and eventually it will start to die down as they run into some of that wind shear. You can see here, we'll probably stop talking about them probably by next week. So, but good news. After that, GFS model showing no tropical systems. How about that? Finally, we get a break. Hopefully, hopefully. You see here, after those tropical systems, it's nothing really to watch here. There may be a couple more tropical waves, but really, it's not really showing anything after Tropical Pressure 20, which will eventually become Victor. That's actually the next name on the list, and Sam. But we'll watch the Caribbean. Typically, on average here, the Caribbean does become a little bit more active as we get into October, and some of those may come up to the Gulf. So we'll watch for the Caribbean as we move into October. But really, after Sam and what's eventually become Victor, we may actually have a brief break from the tropics. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit the like button if you do like my channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.